Hi guys, it's Cindy from Cindy's Art. Today we're going to work on some loose watercolor painting blending. I wanted to highlight a series where we get to work on loose watercolor, and one of the ways that we can learn that technique is by blending colors together. So I picked a simple subject as trees reflecting in water, and I started my 4x6 paper off with washi tape around the edges, and I'm using a little bit of ultramarine blue here in the sky. And when I wet my paper, I did not wet the entire surface. I squirted it with a little bit of water, and then excuse me, and then I'm just dragging my color onto it and using a squirt bottle to get the paint moving. I'm going to dab up the extra water that comes across the edges because I don't want that building up and creating funny lines underneath the tape or on top of it. For the grass, I'm using a sap green, and I'll add a little bit of gambogi in there. And basically, I wet that section. I did not wet the sky. I only wet the section of where the grass is going to be. And I added in my light colors at first, and then I added my medium tones, and now I'm adding a tiny bit of dark. Because I've got my paper tilted up, that dark is not going to bleed into the top layer so much. It won't blend into what's above it. Notice as I'm starting the water below, I am not wetting my paper. I'm simply putting down this ultramarine blue to get the paint started, and then I'm using my brush and I'm painting randomly water below that, and it's going to cause the paint, because it's still wet, to flow down. So paint will move to where water is, and if there is not water in a spot, the paint won't run there, which is really nice. I'm just going to continue to add in more of this ultramarine blue, and then I'm going to squirt it with a squirt bottle because, again, we're practicing that flow. So once you get this laid in there a little bit, you're going to take a small squirt bottle. Mine is a fine squirt. It doesn't have a lot of big drops on it. And when I squirt it, it causes the water to run down. As I'm finishing this section below, my sky is dry, so I'm going to wrap this bottom up and I'm going to move smack into my trees. The trees up above have sap green, permanent yellow orange, and I believe a little bit of a dark green, but the dark green I created by using sap green mixed with ultramarine blue with a little bit of neutral, and the neutral just helped create this darker yellow. So here I've got sap green, I've got the permanent orange, yellow orange going on right now, and then just the tree area is wet, but I'm tilting the paper because I want these colors to blend together, and that's what we're practicing, is painting loosely without doing a lot of details, but we got to get that shading. So we're dabbing the colors into the section where the paper is wet, and I've only wet where I want the trees to go. And then I am taking a wet brush at times and I'm dabbing above where that paint is, and what that does is create soft lines. I believe that it's called I tilt my paper and turn it in a circle because I don't want that paint running everywhere into the trees. I want to control how much darkness is flowing upward. Once I have it pretty much where I want, I will take a skinnier brush and I can just pull down some of those tree trunks, or I can add a little bit of neutral. That's what I'm doing right here, is I'm using a little bit of neutral on a script liner brush. That's a very skinny brush. It's easy to paint tree branches. So I'm basically going to add a few tree branches in, and then what I'm going to do is use more of a bluer tone, and I'm going to paint some very light branches in the back. And it's lighter because when it's further in the distance, it gets lighter in color and it's not as strong. Things are really strong and you see more detail as it comes towards the forefront. And the other thing you have to ask is, what do I want people to be drawn to? Where do I want their eye to go to? So you can see right there that I'm painting very lightly, and I want the impression of the tree back there. I don't want to draw people's eyes back there, but it gives it a little more depth. It looks like it's more of a 3D type of picture. After splattering a few colors into the top of the trees in that section there, I am working on my second layer of paint for my water. I need to be able to create a little bit of light, so I'm going to do that by laying in dark. If you want to see light, you're going to have the dark there as well. So I'm going to use a brush. Once this paint has dried a little bit, I'm going to use a flat brush and I'm going to remove, it's called lifting off, a little bit of water on a paintbrush. There's nothing else on there but water. And then I'm going to take that flat brush, I'm going to drag it across this water and create some lines. It'll give an impression of some of the reflection in the water. So I'm playing with this until I feel like I like the look of it. So decide what you like. Go on Pinterest, take a look at watercolor paintings, take a look at watercolor paintings on YouTube, on Patreon, Instagram. See what people are doing. See what you like and what you want to accomplish, and practice doing that. You'll be surprised within 1 year, if you just take the time to paint a couple times a week, how much your paintings will improve. So this, I'm letting it dry a little bit, and then I'm going to get this flat brush out and I'm going to stroke in a little bit of light, but I want to make sure I have enough of the reflection of the trees in here just to suggest that it's there in the water. So this is a flat chisel brush. That's what this is. It was very small. So I use that to create some lines, and then right here I'm using the bottom of a paint tube. Why? Because if I've got a light in the water, I want to make sure I put a little bit of dark underneath of it. And when I do that, I'm using a paint tube. I'm not putting paint on, but when I scratch the line in this paper, paint is going to pool in that scratch, and it's going to create a dark line. It's really easy. It's really nice for grass too. So I'm using my chisel brush just to brighten up a little bit more of those whites, and this is called lifting off. I dip my paint brush in the water, then I dip it in a little rag that I have towards my left hand on the bottom, and I'm just continuing to lift this off. It's got to be clean water, not too wet, and I'm just taking that water, brushing it on there, and because it's a chisel brush, it'll lift up fine lines. This is really just about done. It's coming to an end. I want to thank you guys for joining me today for this watercolor lesson and for being a part of the channel. If you're not a part yet, please subscribe. Join me on Patreon for lessons, watercolor lessons, and you can also become a member of this channel as well. We'll see you next time.